Sometimes the hardest mission is when you have to adapt to a new role. From starting a first responder career to a new assignment to retirement, Greg Fernia is here to help. Greg is a retired special operations supervisor and a personal and professional development coach. He helps first responders and their families navigate transitions and challenges with purpose and clarity. Learn more at livingthegoodlifecoach.com. That's livingthegoodlifecoach.com. Are you looking for help with your rest and recovery, wanting to optimize your sleep and prime performance? Well, New Calm is built on neuroscience, and it's been used by special operators, SportTAC, pro sports teams, and many, many more for years. To learn more and access the best deals of the year, go to newcalm.co/grit. That's newcalm, NUCALM.co/grit. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests of this show do not represent their employing agency, department, or organization. All information should be regarded as anecdotal, contextual, and educational, and should not be misinterpreted as legal or medical advice. Welcome to Blue Grit Radio, the podcast that explores making better cops for a better community. I'm your host, Eric Tung. I've been an active police officer since 2007. We will dive into the aspects of police culture, health and wellness, leadership, and mindset. You'll hear from experts not only from policing, but all industries as they relate to being our best with purpose, passion, and positivity. Join me as we share stories, lessons, and advice so we can all be better for ourselves, our teams, our families, and our communities. Welcome back, everyone. Today, I have a special version of an episode. This is truly special. A lot of times it's special, but this is a unique format. I'm excited to have Lieutenant David Smith on with me. We've been nerding out on leadership and wellness and a lot of the stuff we talk about here. We were nerding out a bit on the conversation before I hit record, and like often happens, we get talking and we're both like, man, a lot of this should be on the recording because it's all the stuff that we're passionate about, all the stuff that is certainly helpful for a lot of listeners. So without further, David, thanks so much for joining me on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Eric. I know we've been in touch for a while now, and we have a lot of the same, I think, leadership and style and philosophy. So to finally connect is just awesome. Just when you get excuse me, when you get valued people together, like it just kicks off right away, and that's already happened. Like
Yeah.
you said, we should hit record already.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's a really great compliment to you when I see something and I'm like, man, this guy, like he's got the right stuff. And we don't personally know each other. This is the first time we're talking today. But to have been connected on social for quite a while, you kind of get a sense, and other people have told this to me on or off recording, which is like, yeah, there's people out there where you're like, man, is this really what they're about? But when you have the reps and you've been saying something for so long, you're like, okay, clearly this is, no one can just put up it would be absolutely exhausting and just not really fruitful to put on a front for that long. So one thing I'll say is just like, I appreciate the genuine candor. And for the listeners, I'm really excited to format or to kind of reveal a little bit of our plan today, which is to purposefully vague, like bounce back and forth. Like, what are some key tips or advice points that we would offer people at each like pivotal stage in the career? We're relatively both mid-career. You're 15 years on. Now a lieutenant. I'm 18 years on at this time as a commander, similar rank. And so essentially it's just kind of like, hey, from all the way from applicant all the way through, what are the things that you really, or we really want to share out? And we don't know what we've said at each of these points. So I'll kind of go through it. But before we do that, I'd like you to give us a quick intro so listeners get a sense of who you are, what you're doing, kind of the career progression. And the challenge will be to get it in a couple minutes, just so we have a lay of the land.
Oh yeah, I can, just like anybody,
Mhm.
and I've learned how to talk about myself for a while.
Yeah, you
Yep.
have to promote. I mean, that's part
Yeah,
of the
in a
test.
way, that
So,
self-promotion game, like I kind of go back
mhm.
and forth on that, but it does matter to lay out that credibility, and trust. Um, but yeah, I've been on the department here in Virginia, the Hampton Roads region, for 15 years, and I'm a lieutenant now. I've been a lieutenant almost 2 years. So I like to say my career's treated me pretty well. I've enjoyed my time, and I did 7 years on SWAT, and I came off as a team leader, and I came off of the team for my family because I was having my second child at the time, and now I've had my third. So
Nice.
it's really busy. I like to joke around with my wife that Like I clock in when I'm coming home because it feels busier this season of life with the little ones. But at the same time, like work has been great. I've been part of the peer support team now for going on 3 years, and really, I joined that because I was at a point in my life where I had done a lot of deep work on myself. And I started to kind of become that lighthouse to some officers. Like, you know what? I think peer support is the direction that I need to take for my career and just that next step of learning to help other people. And along with that, off duty, same vertical, I developed my own coaching program called Apogee Responders, which the Apogee Men's Development Program are what helped me overcome a lot and just learn so much of what I didn't know. And that's what I'm trying to help others right now within the department and outside of the department. So it's busy times, that's for sure. But it's it's so fulfilling. We joined this job to help others. I like to say, why do you join law enforcement? Because you have to differentiate the two. Like your mission and purpose may be to help others. So why is it to join law enforcement? And we can dive into that when we're talking about the applicant phase. But
Yeah.
um, for me, I had to realize like there's many ways I can help people, you know, and I had to come to terms with why I was doing law enforcement, and okay, how can my family have a mission and purpose to help people too outside of the department? So that's where I'm at right now, and maybe that was under 2 minutes. I don't know.
That was pretty solid. That
Yeah,
was a really good intro.
nice.
So much so that you gave a lay of the land. There's definitely a lot of similarities, kind of like I alluded to. The peer support game. I've just hit over 2 years in this mid management role, which has its own unique opportunities and unique challenges that I've talked about before. So congrats to you on that. I do want to kind of go back and family man, and you're doing it 3 times as hard as harder than I am. I have one kid, and so hats off always from me to anyone who has more kids because I'm like it's a challenge in itself. So
Can't do it without my wife.
yeah, no joke here. Same here. For the deep work, I'm curious. So we'll take a little detour. Was that self initiated, or do you care to kind of share on that? Having done that reflective work and then being like, yeah, I recognize I have this insight that people come to me, I'm able to offer them something, and then leading to peer support. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I definitely was at a point in my life in 2021. I'd come off the team, and I dove into this story pretty deeply on some other podcasts. So I'll try to keep it surface level.
You're
But
good.
I'd come off the team, and then it was COVID and George Floyd era.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on a steady decline for sure, and I was I was in that seeking phase. It's kind of like trying to find the next best thing. There were some people I looked up to a lot. And long story short, I won a giveaway by retired Navy SEAL Jason Redmond, who actually lives in the city that I serve. But he was doing a giveaway, and it was for a program called the Modern Day Night Project. And I I won. It's like a random thing. You text the number, and I happened to win. And I'm a believer, and I think that was 100% meant to happen for me.
Nice.
And I went to California to complete the Modern Day Night Project, and it's one of those programs where people pay $18,000 to go, and they ring the bell and quit. You know,
Mm,
less than 24 hours in. It's a 75-hour men's development program, and I graduated and put all my effort into it, and it changed my outlook on a lot of things. So
nice.
many things. Just I mean, job specific, dealing with trauma and everything that I had accrued over the years, a lot of grief, and then also going back even further in my childhood and my psychology of like how I treated myself,
Mm,
how I always considered myself not good enough. So that turned into this blind ambition of trying to prove myself to everybody.
yeah.
And graduating the project helped me prove myself to me, that I don't have to carry my life proving myself to anybody around me. So after that was when I started surrounding myself with guys like the instructors of the project, which directly led to Apogee.
Mm.
And I joined Apogee in 2023, which is when they launched their men's program. So I was part of the beginning. And I joined that knowing that I needed direction. Like, okay, I have this new mentality, different areas of life, and now I needed direction. I needed to find out more of what I don't know. And I needed to be accountable to people on the same path also. And so joined Apogee, and it's the rest is history. Essentially, like they have 2 years worth of challenges and different month themes. So I did the 24 months straight of just like Zoom calls weekly and different things each month and growing with other guys. And then I ended up going to another live event that was very different than the project called Apogee Catalyst, which is 48 hours, but and you actually get sleep. So, but I
Gotta love
learned a
sleep.
lot there too, and not expecting to, considering the work I had put in at that point. But I learned a ton more, like that I
Yeah.
needed to work on, and just revealed things to me. And all of this has accumulated, my growth journey. I like to say there's like three levels of learning. You kind of sit in a classroom, you get that knowledge. Okay, well,
Mm.
when you go and apply it and actually challenge yourself to do these things, now you've gained this awareness. It's like, hey, you can be told
Mhm.
all day how to handle a call on the streets, but when you go and actually talk to a citizen who needs your help and you solve that problem, all of a sudden you have this huge awareness around what that is. So to me, there's knowledge and awareness, and then the third
Mhm.
level is actually teaching. So in a selfish
Yeah.
way, this is part of my growth journey to help others, in the coaching, within peer support, within Adji responders. So it's been a great journey, and it's continuing. Like I'm still learning so much, and it's been very fulfilling for sure.
Yeah. No, thanks for explaining that, man. And a couple things before we get back to the script, back to the scheduled program is that is you hit on a few things that are I don't know if people will catch it. Certain people for sure did, and other people I think it's worth rewinding back to because there's a lot of reflective nature in that. One, the growth journey. Man, Matt Domyancic's been on a couple times, and he'll be on again. But so reflective in that recognition that yeah, you can learn all these things, and that's where for people listening, some listening will be applicants and they will be rookies just getting into academy, which is like fantastic. I feel very grateful that I'm able to offer something to y'all out there. At the same time, not only is this episode structured for those going through the career, like, hey, we're going to hit the 5-year cop and the 10-year cop, advice for them. Really, the point is like all the advice will be for everyone. It's just what prompted us. And the applicant will hear the advice for the mid career guy, like we're kind of talking to ourselves, or the people that are going to come up to where we're at in our career right now in the next whatever generation, half generation, 3 generations. But all to say that like they're going to hear something that'll resonate with them now, and just like reading a fantastic book or any tome of knowledge, you're going to get different pieces based on reviewing it again, but also just being in a different time and place in your life. um, so I love that recognition that there's the knowledge that's just intel, and then there's applying it, and then discerning it, right? Like how do you apply it to other things, and you're like, oh my gosh, like an example off the cuff is like hearing about the 5 love languages years ago. And it wasn't until way later that I was like, whoa, this applies to all my relationships. What? Like, this applies, like, what love language is my buddy? What love language is my mom or my boss? And like, are we showing appreciation in an effective way? Um, so I'll pivot back away from that. I really appreciate you sharing about the self judgment. I mean, we talk about on the show like giving grace. That's something that I've worked on, and I continue to reveal and understand how deep that is. Like how deep the not good enough is to make myself self critical. And I've had a lot of conversations with guys and gals I work with through the years because, especially if they're after me in career and they're younger, I can see how hard they beat themselves up. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're already like a way above par performer. You've already beat yourself up amply. Like let's move on. This is not doing anything. And so for those listening that probably hear a little bit of that, I would invite you to consider where that comes from and continue to reflect in whatever way, talk about it, journal about it, because if you're just achieving to achieve and prove something, like you're never going to be satisfied. It's never going to be good enough.
Exactly, and that I was never satisfied either
Hmm.
until I had to make that distinction. Like, why am I trying to prove myself? Like, where is this ambition coming from? Like, I got promoted pretty early, comparatively to at least those on my department, and I got on SWAT like 2.5 years on. Um, so it's like I've really had to dive into why I wanted that and who I was proving myself to. And like you said, it's still a struggle for me every day to tell that side of myself. Now it comes up as like imposter syndrome or what have
Hmm.
you. Or like, am I really qualified to be telling this person this or that? Like, yes, I am. I have
Hmm.
to tell myself that every day because or else the old me will start coming up. So you really have to live each day with that intentionality, with each and every decision that you make, each and every conversation, each and every step forward. So
Yeah.
definitely, it's funny you mentioned like the love languages because that's part of my program too.
Nice.
We dive into that. But when you're thinking about like your past, like you mentioned, a good program, I don't know if you've done it, is Jordan Peterson's self-authoring, where
Mm-mm. No, I've heard of
he
it.
actually has you walk through your entire past through
Mm.
these journaling prompts, and it's all online, and you you dive into your past, and then you dive into like who you are now, and then you dive into your future. And if you, I mean, some of my friends have put in like 50,000 words into that, like diving deep dive into their past. So if someone listening here is struggling finding out, hey, why am I doing that? Why am I this way now? Well, it takes a lot of that hard work of actually diving into your past and finding out what affected you and why you made certain decisions, stuff like that. But that program really helped me.
No, that's legit. It's super intriguing because there's so much power of our story, the power of narrative, right? And like, I mean, this will probably come up later, but in just like how we look at, oh, why do you want to be a police officer? Why do you want to, this job of service, this high scrutiny? I don't know any police officers that signed up thinking that it wasn't going to be hard and it wasn't going to be ripe with public scrutiny. Even the time I hired on, right? Like a lot of cops, literally for the department that I work for, when I was doing my first ride along and I was in the process, more often than not, they're like, "You sure you don't want to be a firefighter?" Like half the time it was with a smirk, and half the time it wasn't. They're like, "Dude, you're a college educated kid. What are you doing here?" And like you hear a lot of first responders and cops say that to their kids, to their neighbors. Um, so what story are we telling ourselves? And you say that enough, even if it's sarcastic and cynical, you start to believe it, and that becomes the truth. And how hard is it to maintain that resolve if that's what you're telling yourself and what your buddies are telling you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till the day I get out of here. I'm like, what a miserable way to live and technically choose to live. And I'm not saying like I'm like positive all the time. It's a constant work in progress. I can start my work week sometimes being like, this job's awesome. What a fantastic opportunity. And then a day and a half in, I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing here? Right? Like I'm spinning my wheels. So
Exactly.
from interviews to jail calls, Ditto Transcripts delivers fast, confidential, and court ready transcription for law enforcement agencies. Ditto is CJIS compliant and is already working with agencies all over the U.S., including the Washington State Patrol and the National Park Service Investigations Unit. Get started now at dittotranscripts.com. That's dittotranscripts.com. To hear details about all the applications of Ditto Transcripts and exactly why this is a key solution for your organization's workload issues, check out episode 232. Law enforcement and government agencies struggle with parking citations, often because no one will pay them. Boots or other devices are costly, and they invite confrontation when implied and later removed by enforcing employees. With Tire Tag, you can avoid many hurdles and ultimately promote public safety and revenue collection. To learn more, visit tiretag.com. For a thorough conversation on how Tire Tag can help your agency and revenue collection, visit episode 204. That's 204.
No, I
The
hear you on that. 100%. I had a similar experience. I had when I did ride-alongs, when I was in college, like, kind of as an intern,
Hmm.
I literally had a guy, like, the whole shift, like, trying to convince me, like, "Don't do this job, it's terrible, blah, blah, blah." Like, "Really? You're doing it?" I definitely, understand what you're saying there.
Yeah. But it was part of your journey. And I think for most of us, we all heard that and we did a little self check. Maybe it took a half second, maybe it took 2 days. But we're like, no, yeah, I do want to do this, and strength and resolve, just like any adversity. Um, Man, I love where we're going. And I think people obviously have a decent chunk of like the tone that we're sharing here. So we're gonna jump into it. And I'll start with the applicant, right? So the person that, and this is a little bit geared towards police, but you can hear it in any context. You can hear it for first responder work in general. You could hear it for any highly selective thing. I know because sometimes I get messages, which is really exciting. People from the medical field, nursing, and what have you, like this high drive, high stress type of work. There's so many lessons here that we will share. So, um, David, when thinking about the applicant, what is the tip or advice that jumped out at you that you want to share?
Well, you really have to look into why law enforcement. Why is it that you wanna dive into this? And in today's world, we have like, I know my department lowered the hiring age to 19 and a half. And you also have people who retired from the military are trying to join, what have you. So you do have a different range. You do have a wide range, I think. Um, but you really have to evaluate why is it law enforcement? Because in today's world, we know the difficulties. The
Mhm.
way that wellness has been pushed over the last couple decades, I think it's you would you would probably be ignorant to not know the the damage that the job can do. So to understand that when you're applying, it you really have to dive into that so that you know how it's going to change you. Because I know I'm a different person now than I was when I got hired for sure. Not only normal growth, but the psychology of how the job changes you. When you're in a position of power constantly, and then you dive into the hypervigilance, which is necessary for the job.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's appropriate if you're seeing something terrible, like a baby death or something. It is appropriate to suppress your emotions so you
Mhm.
can handle the call and
Yes.
be there for that family and finish the report and keep the crime scene safe or whatever it is. But then we have to know how to turn that off when we get home. So that's what the job doesn't really teach you. So you have to know that, hey, you're going to be taught this stuff for the job, which is very appropriate. Um, but what you have to go into the job knowing is that, hey, I can't let the job affect my family, affect who I am outside the job. And you go in down the rabbit hole of identity, the thin line identity. But the extent of identity training that I got in the academy was, hey, make sure you have friends outside the department,
Mhm.
and that was it.
Yeah, which is
But
not
yeah,
nothing. That's highly critical for sure.
right. I mean, it can be helpful, but there's so much more when it comes
Mhm.
to leaving work at work. And then you are there's some who say like, "Oh, you never turn it off. You never turn it off." Well, to have the ability to turn it back on is a
Mhm.
skill to develop too. Like if you run into whatever while you're off duty. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot to consider when applying. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely think that's where my mind goes. We're thinking about how the job will change you, and you have to be understanding of that when you're applying.
Yeah, solid. A lot of people say like know your why. I mean, we were talking about Simon Sinek earlier before the recording, and like it starts with why, right? And so to know your purpose, and just like I said, this is for everybody, but for the applicants. I mean, you kind of said like I can't remember now on recording or off, but like yeah, you knew you want to help people. Um, a lot of people say that in their interviews, and I give like specific interviewing advice for my time in recruiting and all that, but yeah, everyone wants to help people. Teachers want to help people, and that's like that's a lot of fantastic ways that the society needs people to be helpers and caretakers. But why this type of thing? Because of all the things that you said, right? Because your why, your resolve will be challenged. Like mine continues to be challenged. Like periodically, right? So to know deeply why, that's for every stage, but for sure for your start, um, I love that. I love how you need to recognize all these things and then be able to toggle your other kind of levers, right? We talked about wellness. We talked about that a lot before this fragment, but it's to know that you have the framework so that you can be resilient through all that, right? Hypervigilance, compassion fatigue. You're kind of talking about the necessity to compartmentalize that hard call. Yes, like I don't want to get overtaken with emotion because I'm not going to be able to show up as well and do my tasks. However, personally for me, there needs to be a time to release that pressure valve off duty or back at the station, what have you, because that's a lot to harbor. So I love where your head went. My little phrase was to diversify your resume. And so I went in more of the specific at first glance, it's the specific applicant hiring process. But really, like, I do think it applies to what you said because it is to say, like, diversify your resume being like your experiences, your passions, like how you conceptualize things. So don't just think linearly like, well, I need to learn how to interview well and I need to do a paramilitary or type of like uniform career or job. Like, I'm going to get a criminal justice degree and work security because that's what they want. No, like, just be the best person you can be and think about all these wellness factors. If you constructively think about improving your fitness and your relationships, then you're improving your communication. Like, these things will all parlay and help you with not just hiring, but the job at large. Um, so yeah, that's me riffing kind of on what you put out.
Yeah, I definitely think I would say, like, know your why. Like,
Mm-hmm.
definitely know your why. Like you mentioned, and I think we had discussed right before the call is, you know, you're getting this profession to help people. Well, why this was profession specifically? Because you can actually make a lot more money helping people a different way, different other
Mm-hmm.
ways.
Yeah.
So why are we diving into this? Like, and in today's day and age, I think the younger generation, they aren't looking at it as a career. They're looking at it as a stepping stone. So you have to know why, like, okay, if you're going in it as a stepping stone, what skills are you trying to build? What are you going to use that for? So it it may not look like a career, but it could look like, hey, I got to get this experience because I have a different role, federal or what have you, or getting some certifications to go into a different field. I don't know. It could be anything, but knowing your why is, to me, where it starts.
Yeah. Yeah. And before we go on to the next one, I will say kind of what you just said. I think that's just a responsible recognition is that the generations and the times, it's not like, oh, these kids these days, generations and the times, starting with our generation, are more likely to career change. And so it's not good or bad, it just is. So the quicker we accept that, the quicker we'll adapt to what the profession needs. However, with that higher attrition and career changes, there's going to be more opportunities. So if you're one of those that are like, no, I don't want to do anything else, then awesome, right? Like, think about how you can develop and grow, but also when you're developing skills and capacities and experiences, you might not have a choice. Like, you and I and anyone listening might not have a choice on how long you do the sworn assignment because things happen, right? Mentally, physically, otherwise. So, by diversifying your thought process and your experiences, you can be nimble, whether it's a different assignment or whether it's a different career, whether you want it or not. So, I think it's all good stuff, man. All right, that was part one of this two-part interview. Make sure to tune in next time to hear the rest of the tips and insight from our conversation. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Blue Grit Radio. As always, support this community by subscribing, giving us a 5-star review, and following, liking, and sharing posts on Blue Grit Wellness on Instagram. You can reach me there or email me at bluegritwellness@gmail.com. Be well and stay gritty.